I hated, absolutely. This movie is a waste of time. I do not remember the last time. This is the first movie since the pandemic has happened. I've been to the theater a lot since then, where it feels like this was a full waste of time. Look, for context on this, I'll jump into what it is exactly that I don't like about it. Context for this, I've been excited about this movie for a very long time. Ever since the first trailers come out, my thought was, this looks like big, dumb fun. Look, there are going to be tons of reviews where people are seeing just a movie that is wanting to go out, spend a bunch of money to make a bunch of set pieces with a huge action star, with a bunch of stuff that might not make sense, and they're going to look down on that. A ton of people, a ton of critics do that. Whenever I saw this movie got 55%, I was excited because I figured, look, there are normally a split of critics where you have the ones that are upset that we're getting some big, dumb fun, and then those that understand, you know what, sometimes people want to go to the theaters and they want to see a well put together, well structured, dumb movie, and that's what I thought was going to happen here. That's what I thought we were going to get. It seemed like, obviously, you got Brad Pitt. There was that GQ article that came out recently where Brad Pitt is a producer, you know, and he kind of talks about movies like that. He talks about the roles he chooses like that, like, he's very invested in the story that's being told, in the filmmakers that are involved, in just the behind the scenes of a movie. So whenever Brad Pitt's name is attached to it, you're not just getting a star, you're getting a creative voice that is, you know, condoning. It's like saying, look, trust me, this is good. This is very good. And you can look at Brad Pitt's production company to see he does a good job at putting his star power behind quality movies. So whenever you see something like this, it looks like, oh, fantastic. And look, I am not saying that this is just a movie that I did not have a fun time at. Like, I'm saying this is probably going to be one of the top 10 worst movies of this year. This is a bad movie. I think the biggest problem this movie has is it does not know what type of movie it really wants to be. The thing that kept coming to mind when watching it was Snatch. It's got this Guy Ritchie feel throughout the entire movie. Everyone's got a name. Everything feels, it's doing that Quentin Tarantino kind of novelization, but in a much punchier, in-your-face way. Every time someone comes on screen for the first time, they've got a title, and their title just stamps on the screen. Every time someone mentions something, it's got a stylish cutaway kind of taking you deeper and deeper and deeper into the story of what this person did before, what they're doing now, what brought them here. And look, I love that style. I think Guy Ritchie's an awesome filmmaker, makes great movies, very, very entertaining movies. Anyone that's doing that type of thing, I think, is great, especially with an $85 million budget. But this one, it feels like a 13-year-old that has seen a Guy Ritchie movie, loves that, and has no idea how to actually bring the style into how to rein it in. But by that I mean that, for instance, look, I think it's fun whenever you have something like Brad Pitt's character comes on, you get a stamp of his name, and then a backstory. That's cool. And then that happens with like 5 other characters, and it's stylish. Like there's an argument between 2 of the main characters. They can't decide in a job they did we kill 16 or 17 people? So they do a flashback where they're counting through everyone, and that's fun. That's very fun. The movie, when it's doing its style, does that very well. But more often than not, instead of like character development type of things, it does this, like, characters will say things like, you told me that I was going to get the money. And then they'll do a flashback of someone opening the case to show the money. Someone will say, like, oh my gosh, and so you're the one that shot him. And they'll flash back to something that they flashed back to 5 times already. They'll do this again and again and again. They will waste so much time to the point that it's like, okay, we get the style. I get the style. I love the style. That's a very fun style. But you do need to restrain it. You can't just do that all the time. Like, there are so many flashbacks. It starts to feel a little bit, it was like, Leanne and I went to go and see this. It was like 45 minutes in, they're doing this. She turned to me and she goes, this feels like Family Guy. And it does. Like, every time someone says anything that refers to the past, there's a cutaway. And it is so, it's just exhausting because it's so much energy is spent on no emotional, no plot information. And the next problem on this is the dialogue. The dialogue is horrendous. I will say the first 30 minutes is fine, because the first 30 minutes of any movie, even something like Bohemian Rhapsody that is off the walls insane in terms of the editing, the dialogue, the costumes, the characters, the acting, the first 30 minutes is very forgivable, especially if the last half of the movie at least finds its footing and knows what it's doing. The first 30 minutes of this movie is enjoyable because Brad Pitt is doing that ironic, lovable, I don't want to be here, I'm the old guy, I'm enlightened type thing, I'm at the wrong place at the wrong time. And it's charming. It's charming. Everyone else that is involved, no one is doing anything as charismatic as what Brad Pitt is doing. But there are a few characters that they've got this pop sensibility, which is enjoyable to a degree when you're getting to know them. And but the dialogue isn't really hitting, but you're kind of there. The sets are stylish, the music is enjoyable, and so you go with it. It's at like the 45-minute mark where you start to really feel that the dialogue is getting worse. It's getting cornier. It needs more of that Guy Ritchie or Tarantino sensibility where jokes are flying and the jokes are hitting. And if the jokes aren't hitting, like the dialogue is playing into the editing. And there's none of that here. The dialogue is working on its whole other level, which starts to think it's very clever, it's very smart. It's not really doing anything. It's not saying anything. It's not being funny. It's kind of characters joking with each other and being very ironic. There's a lot of irony that goes nowhere in this movie. And I just the whole time was thinking like, this feels like a student film that was given a ton of money and it's not connecting at all. The plot, there is no real plot. There are no real goals, which you really need. Like in a movie like this, the things that you need to really make it fit, it needs to be a simple and clear goal. There is a case, there's a MacGuffin that's going on, but where are we trying to get to? What are we trying to reach at the end? That needs to be clear, and it almost needs to be overstated from the very, very beginning of the movie. And then the rest of the time, be stylish and give us fun dialogue. That's literally all that we need in this movie. The dialogue is crap. The style, every now and then, is fine, but the editing just kills this movie. I would say, if you want to watch a movie that does this type of thing much better, and the thing this should have gone for much more, going for a Snatch type feel is fine. Going for a Guy Ritchie feel is perfectly fine. I think this movie should have tried to do a shoot 'em up type movie. The movie with Clive Owen from like 2006 or 7. That movie is totally bonkers. Makes no sense. But also, and I think this is something that Bullet Train is missing, it is a full-on rated R movie. This movie feels like a PG-13 movie that just puts a ton of gore in it, which elevates it to R, which then makes it feel like you're just watching like a movie for teenagers that has a lot of gore in it. Shoot 'em Up is a proper rated R movie. Very, very racy, risky, kind of like, oh, like that's really, like that is brutal stuff going on, from the dialogue to the action to the editing. That movie is crazy, but it gets so crazy that from the very beginning you go with it. It's a lot of fun. The plot makes no sense. If you want to tear it apart, you can. But it's the type of movie where you see the trailer and you go, great, I'm going to have a fun time. I want to have a fun time. Let's go ahead and get into this. And then you do, and it delivers what you want. Bullet Train kind of offers that. It offers the style. It offers the great acting. It offers violence. And it just underperforms on every one of those elements. It doesn't feel relaxing at all. It feels exhausting. And then you look back on what you got, and it's like there was nothing. Like the last 5 minutes of the movie, they just would not cut it with the joking. It was the stupidest thing of all time. And it just, I kept going back to that Brad Pitt interview that he did with GQ, where he was saying that he's wrapping up his career. He's wrapping up his career, and you got to start looking at, what do we want to do? How do we want to end? How do we want to end? And is this really, like, is this how you want to end? He says you're on the last legs of your career. It was frustrating. It was beyond frustrating. The first 30 minutes, look, fine. But it lost it. It lost it immediately. Like, when you reach the 40-minute mark, it's a shame. It's a shame. But give me your thoughts on it. I really hated this thing. But yeah, leave me your thoughts. And if you have not already, please subscribe to 5 Minute Critic for future updates on reviews and movie news.